Welcome to Crash Point, the place where business legends are remembered and their mistakes are revealed. Today we uncover the rise and fall of BlackBerry. There was a time when one small red light could stop a room. A sitting president of the United States refused to give his up. Wall Street ran on it. Hollywood couldn't put it down. For a few extraordinary years, one Canadian company controlled how the most powerful people on Earth talked to each other. Presidents, CEOs, spies, and teenagers, all typing on the exact same tiny keyboard. At its peak, this company was one of the most valuable technology businesses on the planet. Its name stopped being a brand. It became a verb. People didn't check their phones, they checked their BlackBerry. Then, in less than a decade, it was gone, not slowly, not quietly. It collapsed while the entire world watched. So, how does a company that once owned the future lose to a phone with no keyboard at all? This is the story of BlackBerry, and it starts, of all places, above a bagel shop. In 1984, Waterloo, Ontario, a small university town most Americans couldn't find on a map, a 23-year-old engineering student named Mike Lazaridis drops out of the University of Waterloo weeks before graduation, chasing a strange conviction that wireless data, not wireless voice, was the future. With his childhood friend Douglas Fregin, he starts a company in a small office above a bagel shop. They call it Research in Motion. For 8 years, almost nobody notices. RIM survives on scattered contracts, patient, unglamorous engineering work. Then, in 1992, a sharp young accountant named Jim Balsillie remortgages his own house to buy his way into the company. He becomes co-CEO. Lazaridis understands engineering. Balsillie understands markets. Together, they become obsessed with a single question. What if your email could live in your pocket? In 1999, the answer arrives. The BlackBerry 850, no camera, barely a screen, just a tiny keyboard and a promise. Your email delivered instantly the moment it lands. It sounds small. It wasn't. For the first time in history, work didn't wait for a desk. A lawyer could answer a client from an airport gate, a banker from the back of a cab. The office had escaped the building, and it fit in a hand. Corporate America noticed immediately. So did Wall Street. So did Washington. RIM hadn't just built a device. It had built a leash. And soon, millions of people would be begging to wear one. By the mid-2000s, BlackBerry wasn't just a tool for the office anymore. It was a status symbol. For a growing number of people, it was close to an addiction. In August 2005, RIM launched BlackBerry Messenger, BBM, instant, free, tied not to a phone number but to a private PIN, traded like a secret handshake. Overnight, BlackBerry stopped being just an executive's tool. It became a teenager's currency. If you didn't have a PIN, you weren't in the group. You weren't in the room. At the very top of the world, BlackBerry had become non-negotiable. Governments trusted its encryption with state secrets. Banks trusted it with billions of dollars a day. In 2008, Barack Obama was elected president and refused to give up his BlackBerry, even as his own security team called it a liability. They didn't take it away. They built him a hardened, custom version instead. The nickname said it all. Crackberry. People checked it at dinner, under the desk, in the dark, beside the pillow. It buzzed, and the world answered. On June 19, 2008, BlackBerry's stock closed at an all-time high, $147.55 a share. The company's market value, $83 billion. It commanded roughly 40% of the American smartphone market. It wasn't a phone company anymore. It was the nervous system of global business. And from the outside looking up, nothing looked like it could ever take that away. Nothing except a man in a black turtleneck about to walk on stage in San Francisco. January 2007, Steve Jobs holds up a slab of glass with no keyboard at all and calls it the iPhone. In Waterloo, Mike Lazaridis watches the webcast in disbelief. Not fear exactly, more confusion. A full web browser on a phone. That shouldn't be possible without draining the battery in an hour. Surely it was a trick. His co-CEO isn't worried either. Weeks later, Jim Balsillie tells reporters the iPhone is just one more phone in a crowded market, nothing close to a turning point for BlackBerry. A year later, Lazaridis is still certain. The future of mobile is the physical keyboard, not glass. He means it completely. That certainty becomes the fatal mistake. Instead of rethinking the phone, RIM tries to imitate the iPhone while keeping the keyboard's soul alive. The result, in 2008, is the BlackBerry Storm, a touchscreen built to physically click, mimicking keys that are no longer there. Customers hate it. Screens freeze, buttons misfire, return rates approach 100%. And behind the scenes, the company that once moved fast is now frozen solid. Two co-CEOs, two egos, one broken decision-making process, where every major call needs both men to agree, and increasingly they don't. While RIM argues with itself, Google gives Android away for free. Samsung, HTC, and a dozen other manufacturers flood the market with touch screens of their own built on top of it. BlackBerry didn't lose to one phone. It lost to an entire philosophy it had refused to believe in. By September 2012, BlackBerry still had 80 million subscribers worldwide. On paper, it looked unstoppable. It wasn't. It was already dying. Most of those users sat on aging devices, in markets the rest of the tech world had stopped watching. In the US and in Europe, the exodus was already well underway, customers walking out the door by the million straight into the arms of the iPhone and Android. In January 2012, after months of pressure from shareholders, Balsillie and Lazaridis finally stepped down as co-CEOs. The company they had built together, they could no longer save together. A year later, BlackBerry 10 finally arrives, a complete ground-up reinvention of the phone. It's well-reviewed. It's also about 6 years too late. The world had already decided what a smartphone was supposed to be, and it wasn't this. That November, the board brings in John Chen, a turnaround specialist, to save what's left. His diagnosis is brutal and simple. BlackBerry cannot win the phone war anymore. In 2016, the company stops building its own smartphones for good, licensing the name to a Chinese manufacturer, TCL. That deal collapses in 2020. One final attempt to revive the brand fails before a single new phone ships. Then, on January 4, 2022, BlackBerry pulls the plug for good. Every legacy device, every phone still running the classic BlackBerry software simply stops working. No calls, no texts, not even 911. The device that once defined an entire era goes dark all at once on a single Tuesday. Here's what most people don't know. BlackBerry never actually died. It just went invisible. Today, the company that once lived in your pocket lives inside your car. It's QNX software built for safety, not for show. now runs inside more than 275 million vehicles worldwide. Every time a car brakes itself or holds its own lane, there's a real chance a small piece of BlackBerry is quietly doing the work. The company also builds cybersecurity software for governments and corporations, sharpened by an AI security firm it bought for $1.4 billion. BlackBerry the phone died. BlackBerry the company simply became something else. And that's the real lesson sitting inside this story. BlackBerry didn't fail because its engineers were untalented or because its founders were fools. Some of the sharpest minds in wireless technology built this company. It failed because it fell in love with what made it great and mistook that love for a guarantee. The keyboard, the encryption, the enterprise customer, these weren't just products anymore, they were beliefs. And beliefs, once they harden, stop you from seeing the thing that's about to replace you. Every company that has ever ruled its industry has believed for a while that its advantage was permanent. So the real question isn't really about BlackBerry at all. It's this: what does your industry believe today that will sound just as impossible 10 years from now as a phone with no keyboard once did?